The media is flawed. The media is controlled by a few. Everything we see and hear is the same. This isn't science fiction. This is real.
I came to see that news is what people want to keep hidden, and everything else is publicity.
There to be real debate. Instead of giving us the Survivor program about how we have to cheat and destroy each other in order to win, give us programming that says if we work together, not against each other.
What you are witnessing is a national response. Corporate consolidation has corrupted the media landscape. Media reform activists across the country are banding together for one primary cause: free media.
On a national level, media reform is concerned about the corporate takeover of America's media.
All the things that we watch on television, hear on the radio, the book publishers, the magazine publishers, the newspaper publishers, it's too concentrated.
The ownership is so concentrated that we're down to a situation where I believe it's approximately 6 to 8 huge corporations.
You know, we also have to realize that it's not just media companies anymore. I mean, these are guys that make power plants, that make weapons, that make household appliances.
What we think needs to be looked at are the trends toward consolidation, the trends toward cross ownership, and the trends away from hearing the local voice.
A lot of folks might think, well, everybody has a right to make a profit. A corporation has a right to make a profit. But what people forget is that the airwaves that media use to make that profit belong to us.
The more public participation, the better the policies, the better the system, the better our society.
This is largely because of structural problems, policy decisions that have led to structural problems. And as policy decisions have shaped the structure of the media right now.
Most recently, with the 1996 Telecom Act signed into law by President Bill Clinton, that lifted many of long-standing restrictions on how much media one company could own, how much reach one company could have. And as soon as that was signed into law, we immediately started seeing the effects. A radio company like Clear Channel, which operated a few dozen stations around the country, within several years of the passage of the 1996 Telecom Act, they owned over 2,000 radio stations.
And they found that by centrally automating news and music, they could realize great cost efficiencies. But what that tended to do to radio stations around the country is make them all sound the same.
Radio isn't the only medium affected by media consolidation. Take journalism.
The state of news journalism is in a real big state of flux right now.
There's so much that isn't reported in the mainstream media that you never hear about, and certainly a lot of local content that isn't covered as well.
They're spending less time out on the street, working stories, finding information, and checking facts.
I think there is an enormous confusion about not only who a journalist is, but what is journalism as well. Is Bill O'Reilly a journalist? He's, to me, an interviewer, an entertainer, and a person with a very definite perspective.
They're like, oh, he said it, I don't like it. Oh, he said it, I do like it. People sometimes don't even care or bother to look into what they're actually saying.
And I think if people were actually given well done, informative information that's done in a way that can be entertaining, they'd respond to that too. But that's hard to do. That takes money. The Britney Spears, Paris Hilton stuff, it's cheap, it's easy, it fills airspace, and it gets people watching.
And no group is experiencing the media more than our modern day youth.
Young Americans are growing up in what I would call a media bath, just a constant flux of media of all different sorts. And it's easy to just get lost in the products that come at you.
The younger generation has basically turned off radio in a lot of ways.
You know, radio's dangerous, my love. Every now and then you push the wrong button and all kafuki.
I think it's important that universities start giving media reform classes. So yeah, if that becomes a bigger field, that might make it easier for younger generations to get more involved.
My son is 18 and he's never lived in an environment, or he's never been active on the internet in an environment where he couldn't get news free. So we're going to ask him to go out in some years and now start paying for news.
You know, video games on demand, movies on demand, music on demand, you know what I mean? So then you don't work for something, you know, you don't struggle to get it and win it. It's just, you know, well, just find the money and pay for it.
To some, this corporate media does not live up to expectations. That's why Florida is just one of the many homes to media awareness.
You have a number of different fronts to the media reform movement. You have people who are on the front line, the people who are building community radio stations, low-powered FM stations, indie media websites. And then you have people who are really trying to address the policy and structural concerns that have really led to the state we're in right now.
People can go to freepress.net. They've been organizing behind media reform for several years now. Each year they hold a national conference for media reform. Every year that conference has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as more people are becoming a part of this movement.
They can go to media-democracy.net and particularly click on the Media Bill of Rights and sign off on it if you so desire. I think everybody's got a stake in a free and vibrant media.
Our mission with Speak Up Tampa Bay was to help the community itself identify on its own what it considered the challenges that it was facing in its own community.
That's my goal, is to teach people the theory, skills, and practices of journalism so they can work effectively in the media, and then teach them as much as I can about how media operates so they can use media effectively when they get out.
You don't have to have any experience in media to come and have a show at WSLR. We give you all the training that you need, and then you run everything by yourself once you get that training.
So what we are doing is we're allowing access to the public to do radio. And it's surprising, people forget what it's all about.
We're also seeing an explosion of DIY media, do-it-yourself media. They're using all of these different outlets available to them to post their stories, their news, their viewpoints.
And the more that they feel they can do something, the more they'll do it and the more they'll feel like it and things like that. So we want to get people involved in the actual creation of things and realize that, that it isn't something that's just being created.
As much as we say we need free news in a democracy, and as much as people can nod their head and say, yes, we do, the fact is, we do.